Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com with another episode of the BTSC flagship podcast, The Standard is the Standard. And joining me always out on the West Coast, out in Cali, Lance Williams. What's up, Lance? How are you this evening?
What's up, sir? Inside joke. Eucerin works well.
Man, people listening to that have no clue what you're talking
Exactly.
about. Okay, anyways, let's get to the Pittsburgh Steelers news. Like I say all the time in the offseason, say this on our Steelers preview show. I've said it on my show, The Steelers Burning Question. That is, no news is good news. And if all we're talking about is predicting the Steelers' defensive depth chart, and all we're talking about are these dumb rankings that the NFL Network puts out there, then that is to me a very, very successful offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because right now, all you're hearing about in terms of news, quote unquote, players getting suspended, players that are getting arrested, maybe a new contract here or there, but typically it's bad news. So, Lance, they've stayed out of trouble. I think that's a good omen, don't you? At least so far.
Absolutely. Availability is the number one stat in the National Football League. And if you're suspended, you can't play. So as long as these guys aren't getting into trouble, and at least from the outside looking in, it implies that they're focused.
All right. Now, last week, if you're just tuning in and maybe it's your first time ever seeing this show, we took a stab at predicting the Steelers' offensive depth chart for the 2019 season. I guess essentially we talked about some camp battles, who we thought would win, who we thought would lose, and we kind of gave it our own little spin. So this time we're going to go to defense. So if you missed the offensive podcast, go back to last week's show and check that out. Now we're going to talk about defense. Now, Lance, how many positions did we already have knocked down?
I think we had, I think we got 25 spots left because if you add the specialists, that puts us, I believe, at 28. I think we had 25 on offense. So,
Right. So I think we were planning on having 25 on defense. So we're assuming
yes,
that I want to say there's a tight end / long snapper on the team. We're assuming he doesn't make it. They keep Cameron Canaday, who's their long snapper. So you have
right.
3 specialists. So we're not talking about special. Well, I guess we could talk about specials. That's another episode. Today we'll talk about the defense. Let's start with the skill positions, just like we talked about with the offense. I want to start from the outside in. Let's start with cornerbacks. How many players do you see them keeping in terms of cornerbacks? We're talking slot and outside cornerbacks.
You got to keep six. You got to keep at minimum five if a team spreads you out and they go five wide. So you got to have at least five guys that you can put on the field because you can't realistically put safeties on five wide receivers. You have two mismatches there. I don't care how good your safeties are. So you got to have at least five, and you got to have at least an extra guy that probably plays special teams. So I'm going to guess you got to have six corners.
Okay, I agree that they'll probably keep 6 cornerbacks. Now the question is, who are they going to keep? Let's assume that, well, Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden are locks, in my opinion. Um, After that, Mike Hilton currently doesn't have a contract. He's a restricted free agent. He hasn't signed his tender yet. He's hoping to get a new deal, but I think it's safe to say that he should be on the roster this year in one way, shape, or form. So there's your 3. Who are the other 3 that make the team, in your opinion?
I think the rookie will make it. To your point last week about the Steelers not giving up on rookies and really not trying to admit fault that they drafted a bad guy. So Lane will make it. Cam Sutton will make it because allegedly there's going to be a camp battle between Hilton and Cam Sutton. So Cam Sutton will make it. And the wild card in this mix,
Don't
it'll
say
be
it.
Artie Burns.
No, don't say it. No, don't.
Artie Burns is going to make the roster. Here's why he makes the roster is because in a pinch, he is a veteran with playing time. He does have snaps at the position as a starter. He should presumably be better than any rookie or any guy that you have to pull off the street if you need a corner in a pinch. He's familiar with the defense. Physically, he has the physical capabilities. We all know with Artie Burns, it's in between the ears. So Artie Burns is a safe guy if you need to give a very limited amount of snaps. He is a known, and you always go with the known as opposed to the unknown in football.
His experience does give him I guess you would say, a notch on the belt, but at the same time, his experience is not good experience. And I wonder if a player like Brian Allen, who now is considered a hybrid cornerback safety, position versatility, we've talked about that on this show a lot, maybe he finds his way on the roster over Artie Burns. We'll see, but let's get into that as we go to safeties. We both agree they'll keep 6. That's 6 of the 25 right there. We'll break down as we filter these out. Let's go to safety.
Let me add one thing, Jeff. I think the
Sure.
other thing that helps Artie Burns, we talked about the 3 Ps, and I'm not going to state the 3 Ps because I always sort of almost forget the three
It's
Ps. But the
pay, pedigree, and
and
performance.
performance. Yes, pedigree helps Artie Burns. Teams don't like to cut first round picks,
Right.
even if they disappoint over the course of the initial contract. Teams rarely cut first rounders because you're a first rounder. That will typically get you through your first contract. They just won't bring you back, and they won't offer you the 5th year.
Okay.
So
Well, they
you
already
know
turned it. They already that ship has sailed. The
exactly.
5th-year option was not picked up. Okay, but you have him making the team. That's fine. So let's go to safety. So Terrell Edmonds, first-round draft pick, he's going to make the team. Sean Davis in a contract year, former second-round draft pick, he will make the team. And then after that, it's a who, I mean, the other potential players are Marcus Allen, Jordan Dangerfield, Brian Allen, as I mentioned, who's a cornerback slash safety hybrid. You got a couple undrafted guys, PJ Locke and Askew Henry, I think is his name, from West Virginia. Lance, before we talk about individuals, how many safeties are they going to keep on the roster?
I agree it'll be 4. I mean,
Okay.
because you got 2 starters, you got to have 2 backups. So at minimum, it's 4. And I think the battle is between the Allen duet. I mean, the Allens will battle, I think, for that 4th safety spot. I think Jordan Dangerfield will get that 3rd spot because he's played starter snaps. And I think he has the most experience of any of those other guys, those Allen guys, in the defense. So again, you go with defense experience, a guy who's played in the defense and started, albeit limited snaps, and he's a good special teamer. So I think he has those things over the 2 Allens. So the camp battle will be between the Allen brothers.
It'll be interesting to see. I agree they'll keep 4. If they had to try to skim their roster, let's say they want to keep an extra defensive lineman or an extra linebacker, they could easily, if they were going to, we both agree that they don't like to do this, but they could cut Artie Burns, keep Brian Allen. He would be depth at both safety and cornerback. But we'll agree with 4, and I agree with that camp battle between Allen and Allen. I would hope Marcus Allen would win that, though.
That's a law firm, Allen and Allen. So, Allen and Allen, if you ever get in trouble, if any of the Steelers get a DUI, they can call Allen and Allen defense attorneys at law.
We don't get what is it? We don't get money unless we get money for you. There you go. Okay, so we're at 10 now. 6 cornerbacks, 4 safeties. We're at 10, at least 15 positions left. Let's go to the outside linebacker position. Now, this was a position that if 1 year ago you and I were doing the same show and we were talking about how many linebackers would they keep, there is no chance and where that I would have ever said 3 as the number. And yet there we were. Week 1, 3 players. Bud Dupree, TJ Watt, and Anthony Chickillo. Now, a lot of people think that if Ola Adeniyi didn't pull his hamstring in week 4 of the preseason, he would have made the roster, which would have meant 4. Nonetheless, he did, and they kept a 3. So, Lance, what are you seeing from outside linebacker in this upcoming year?
Well, those 3 that you said to start will make it. So you got Watt, Dupree, Chickillo. It's interesting with the number because they play so much sub-package football. The amount of snaps that you have actually 4 linebackers on the field, it minimizes every single season, right? It goes down because you're getting the different sub packages where you have 3 linebackers on the field, multiple players in the secondary. But just for the number count, I think they go with 5. I think Ola will make the roster.
Okay.
And I think Sutton Smith will make the roster as well because he's a
Okay.
jack of all trades. He's a guy that has possession flexibility. I think he's a guy that you can plug and play in different spots, and they need special teams guys. So I think Sutton Smith also with his pedigree being in the draft class and being a draft pick, I think they're going to give him every opportunity to make the roster. I think he will. I think they'll have 5. Again, it'll be Watt, Dupree, Chicolo, Ola, and Sutton Smith.
I guess by nature you could say that they'll keep 5 and Sutton Smith could be in that group. I do think Sutton Smith will make the team, but I don't think he's even going to be used unless it's an injury situation on that depth chart. He's a special teams guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I guess we'll put him on there. I'll agree with you that 5, but technically that's 4. And
So
we're talking technically there's really just 4 that will actually play outside linebacker.
so his middle name is Sutton Dash.
Yes, there
It's
you go.
Sutton Dash Smith.
What is it? The jack of all trades, master of none is the saying.
Exactly.
I believe. So
Exactly.
that describes Sutton Smith.
If you guys listened to the show last week, I made the joke about Dash. Like Dash is that guy that's number 4 on the depth chart. Who's that guy named
Devlin
Dash?
Hodges. Devlin
Yes,
Hodges.
Dash. It's Dash. Mrs. or Mr. Dash, a blend, herb spice blend for baked chicken, fish, and other things.
Okay, so we had 10 coming into the outside linebackers, 6 cornerbacks, 4 safeties. Now we go 5. So now we're at 15. That leaves us 10 for inside linebacker and defensive front. Let's go inside linebacker now. Obviously, we're going to go Devin Bush. Yes. Mark Barron. Yes. Vince Williams. Yes. Those 3 are all yeses. After that, how many do they keep and who do they keep?
They got to keep one more. I mean, you got to keep one more. If you got 2 starters, typically you got to have 2 in the backup. You got to have 2 backups.
Right.
So I think it's going to be Dirty Red. I think Dirty Red is going to be the guy to get that 4th inside linebacker spot. I think it'll be Tyler Manikevich. So it'll be Williams, Barron, Bush, and Manikevich. Man, all these names, when you roll them together, they really sound like law firms. I mean, Williams, Barron, Bush, and Manikevich. I mean, come on, man. That they could do some litigation for you.
Yeah, they could. Well, Ulysses Gilbert is the only guy I think that could throw a wrench into this in terms of the number of players that you keep, because if he is a strong special teams player, maybe they keep him along with Matakevich and say we'll keep 5. But again, we're talking about a guy that's just going to play special teams. He'll probably be a game day inactive most weeks anyways. Drafted player, same round as Sutton Smith, the 6th round. But I'll agree that they keep 4. But
what about Robert Spillane? What about Spillane?
No,
no way. Dash.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think it's just for me. Again, if Ulysses Gilbert makes the roster and they keep 5 inside linebackers, he either is just going to play special teams or he's going to be inactive on game day wearing street clothes. So we'll say let's say 4. We'll just stick with 4.
We'll agree there won't be 5.
Okay, so we have 4. So we had 15. Now we're at 19, and that leaves 6 players along the defensive front. This is where it gets interesting. So this is where, in my opinion, the Steelers can kind of pick and choose what they want to do. So you obviously have the starting 3. That's Cam Hayward, that's Stephon Tuitt, that's Javon Hargrave. Tyson Alualu will be there. Now you have other 2. So you have big shade tree Daniel McCullers. You have rookie Isaiah Buggs from Alabama. And I'm trying to think if there's another player that's of note. I'm sure there is. I'm forgetting him. But how many do they keep? Do they keep 5? Do they keep,
I think this is the position I think they can play with, but I think they'll keep 6. I mean, when you go through these names, and you're going to be impressed that I know these names. Winston Craig.
You're looking at him on your computer. Don't act like you studied the roster.
Hey, but that is research. that is. Hey, I'm not pulling. Hey, play-by-play guys, and color guys have notes.
That's true. That's true.
Come on, man. Notes are part of it. But Winston Craig, Casey Sells, Lavon Hooks, Henry Mondre, those guys aren't going to make it. I mean, there's nothing that protects them.
No.
Pedigree, pay, performance, none of that protects those guys. The thing that protects Bugs, again, I'm going to be a broken record and say it again. It's his pedigree. He was drafted. That gets him on the roster. And Big Dan McCullers has some secret photos of the coaching staff in his house.
Yep.
And so, you combine those two things. Hey, he stays on the roster. Dan McCullers is the worst player to be on a team 4 years or more, probably in the National Football League. He might be one of the worst defensive linemen. That's a question. Hopefully somebody can respond to it on the group thread. Here's the question. Do you think Daniel McCullers is the worst defensive lineman in Pittsburgh Steelers history?
Oh, no. No. Who was the free agent they got from San Diego? And it was San Diego at the time. That he looked like he was on ice skates, man. Every time he was out there, he's just getting pushed around. I mean, Dan McCullers might just stand up, but he doesn't get pushed around like he's on ice skates. Well, here's the thing though, because that would be 6 players, that would be 25, that would have hit the 53, like we talked about. If they decided that they want to add another defensive back, they could cut McCullers.
Yes.
They could go with 5, and they could add in a Brian Allen type in the back end. That is something that they could do. Or it doesn't have to be Brian Allen. It could be one of the undrafted rookies like Locker or Askew Henry, or it could be a number of players that they could keep. So there is Cam Thomas is the guy. Thank you, Matt, that said that in the live chat. He was the player. You remember Cam Thomas? He got pushed around.
Here's the funny thing about Cam Thomas. They used to put him in goal line.
Yeah.
And he, man, oof.
He just get pushed
Apollo
around.
Ono. He was Apollo Ono. He was a speed skater. Oh, man.
Not good. So, okay, there you have the defensive prediction for us. If you disagree, you can. You're entitled to your opinion. Everyone is. Maybe where do you see those numbers changing? I think they're pretty solid. Or maybe, like I said, if they decide they're getting rid of McCullers, maybe Ulysses Gilbert goes in and they keep him as a special teams guy. I am all for that move if I'm the coach, because the Steelers special teams has been awful. And if I get some athletes that are fast, that are willing to go out and make a play, if that's Sutton Smith, if that's Ulysses Gilbert, yes, I want to put them on the roster because I think they can make a big difference, because the Steelers defense, their special teams really, really needs it.
Hey, so, Jeff, you're being modest, Jeff. Our opinions are the only ones that matter and are correct. Everybody else's opinion, if you're listening to the show, yours doesn't matter. It's our opinion. It's better than you guys. So we're going to get it right. Challenge us. We're going to get 53. We're probably going to get at least 50.
Well, speaking of which, you have Mark Cavalli of The Athletic, formerly of the Pittsburgh Tribune Review and DK Pittsburgh Sports. He put out a 53-man projection, yes?
Yes, he did.
And
he listened to our show.
Where did he differ? Anywhere?
No, because he listened to our show on offense, and then he posted his article. I guarantee you that. I mean, Kaboom is a good guy. I've interviewed Kaboom a couple of times, but I know how this works. Guys get lazy. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything.
just listen to a really good pod. Take the numbers. Do your show after that. I mean, it is what it is. That's part of this business. I've learned over about 15 years of doing pods that, depending on the size of your pod, on your following, guys will either just rape and pillage your information or just, steal it nicely.
Yes.
And so they take from us. They don't rape and pillage us. They just take it nicely.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, that's a whole different conversation for a whole nother day in terms of secondhand news sources like BehindTheSteelCurtain.com and stuff of that nature. But you know what? I think that our 53 is pretty solid. And when you look at it, Lance, agree or disagree, really not that many training camp battles of note. Am I right? I mean, it really isn't.
Yeah, I mean, training camp battles, that's football's way of creating stories when it's slow. Our camp battles. I mean, that's the football, stuff that we do, talk shows, articles. That's like the football speculation cake. Our camp battles. I mean, for the most part, on most teams, 45 to 46 of the roster spots are probably already taken. I'd say it's even more. It's probably about 47, 48. There's typically only 5 to 6 spots in question every single season. I'll say more, probably 7, because you got 7 to 8 draft picks. A lot of times for most teams, your 6th to 7th round guys are on the bubble. They don't make it, but you're typically bringing in a new 5 guys. You lose some guys in free agency, so it doesn't even pan out that way from a number perspective. So there's rarely a lot of battles on a team. The sign of a bad team is you have a bunch of roster battles. I mean, if you have a ton of roster battles, your team is pretty bad. I would expect a team like Arizona to have, camp battles all along that roster because they were awful. A team like the Steelers, very close to making the playoffs, started 7-2-1. I
Mhm.
mean, a lot of those spots are pretty much locked up.
Yeah. No, I agree. Agree 100%. Really like the point about a team with a lot of camp battles is not a good team. I like that point. Now, here's let's switch gears a little bit from our predicting the depth chart to doing some other predictions. Now, I'm not sure if you saw these articles or if anyone that's listening to the show saw these
No,
articles, but myself and Simon
no.
Chester, who's my deputy manager, when we were 30 days out from training camp, this is something I used to do with Neil Coolong back when I started with the website. We did 30 predictions in 30 days. And so what that is every other day, I'll do one and he'll do one the next day. We're just doing random predictions. It can be individual predictions, they can be team predictions. I want to throw some at you and you tell me whether it'll happen or whether it won't happen. You give me your opinion, okay? So this
So,
isn't
so correct me. So correct me. So I get these wrong all the time. So am I answering true or false? And then giving I'm true or
well,
false?
yeah, I mean, you can say true or false. That's fine. It's a prediction. So, like for instance, here's the first one: the Steelers will win at least 10 games in 2019.
True.
Okay, I agree. I think it'll happen. Um, let's see over the one yesterday. I did this one in 2019. The Steelers will reach 50 sacks for the third straight season.
True.
You do? Okay, so that would be the first time in team history that that would happen. Now, I actually went into detail about why I think it's going to happen. You played both sides of the coin, but I said how, for me, I thought that the coverage was going to be better. Quarterback holds onto the football longer. But then someone else brought a really good point. Lance, let me know what you think about this. Is that the Steelers secondary improving or hopefully improving? They won't have to be so aggressive in their blitz packages. Do you agree with that? And that might lead to a lower sack count.
If the coverage is better, they may not be as aggressive in their blitz
They don't
packages.
have to sell out so much to try and they can basically play coverage more and trust that their guys are going to actually cover something that they've struggled with in the past.
Um, I'd have to think about it. I'd say no.
Okay.
I'd say I disagree with that one. I mean, they're a blitzing team. They blitz. I
Yep.
mean that's one of the things that they do. I think the coverage on the back end they'll be more aggressive blitzing because I
Okay.
think they'll be able to hold up on the back end in one-on-one coverage with 2 better corners that they can meet. They can leave those corners a little bit more vulnerable and bring more guys and not have to protect those guys as much with the zone. I think they're going to be playing with more leads, which I think is going to lead to them getting 50 sacks as well.
Okay. I like that. Here's another one. A defensive player for the Steelers will record at least 5 interceptions in 2019.
Yes,
Okay. Who do you think that'll be?
I think that will be Joe Hayden.
All right. I I'm tempted to say that it would be someone like Sean Davis, but I'm not going to go that far. I'll agree with you with Hayden, but I think someone will. I think they're definitely going to be better off. And then we'll do one more here, and we're going to have plenty of these to talk about in the future. Here we go. The Steelers' offense will average 28 points per game in 2019. Remember, the mark used to always be 30. I I did this one, so I knocked it down to 28 points per game.
Hell no.
What? They were close
No.
last year with 28.
Yeah, with Antonio Brown as well.
Oh,
Hell
jeez. Here we go.
no. But I don't think it has to average 28. I think the magic number is 26 and above. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would say 75 to 80% of the playoff teams last year averaged 26 and above. I think the number is 26. The bigger thing is point differential. So if you average 26, I mean, you want your point differential to be around 5.5 points or above.
Okay, well let me give you the years the average points per game since 2014. Are you ready?
Yeah.
In 2014, they averaged 26.6. 2015, 25.4. 2016, 24.4. 2017, 26.4. 2018, 26.8. So I looked at it from this way. I said if the goal's not 30 points per game, if their kicker could make more kicks, Ben Roethlisberger doesn't throw horrendous interceptions in the red zone. But if they can continue their red zone success and they get a defense that creates more turnovers, which equates to more offensive possessions, I could see it happening. I seriously could, but that's just me.
Well, you can call me Ray, and you can call me Jay. I mean, that's a lot of ifs, man. I mean, let's just
Oh,
add some
yeah.
more ifs. I mean,
Well, it's not so much that it's a lot of ifs, but it's one of those situations where some of that stuff happened.
you
You
know,
know,
I'm
they
sure
did have a good red zone offense last year.
I'm
They
sure you
didn't get
say that,
turnovers.
sometimes when you're on the tee box, if I could hit it around this tree and land it soft right here, I have an approach shot from about 75 yards.
Yeah, but I do that.
See, I said that because I just wanted to hear you brag. See, I just want, I just wanted to hear you brag.
There
Well,
you go.
maybe for you is if I hit this approach shot within 8 feet, maybe I'll make the putt, and not two putt for par,
Yep.
and get this birdie.
There you go.
The
All right.
barometric pressure and the humidity when the ball is cutting. Look, I mean, it's more differential of points. I mean, if you're not scoring a lot of points, you can't give up much. I mean, that's just kind of how it works. I mean, that's a rudimentary way of just saying it. If you score more points, if you're like the Chiefs and you're scoring like close to 35 a game, you can give up 28. It's just about differential.
Yeah.
Uh, and for them, if they scored 25 to 24, I would love to see them give up 17. Well, 17 would probably be the best in the NFL. Give up under 20, anywhere between 17 and 19 and a half, score about 25 points. Maybe the differential is close to a touchdown, but it's got to be in that sweet spot of above 5 points, 5.5 points. It's got to be above that. The issue, as I talked about on my show a couple of times, it's replacing Antonio Brown's touchdowns, and it's also replacing the touches, how many touches he gets, and spreading those touches around at the wide receiver position, how they're going to do that. They're going to have to figure out some things on offense. So I could see a case where they sputter a little bit out the gate, find their way towards the end of the season. And if you did like split stats or something like that, and you look at the average points per game in different periods of the season, I'll give you that maybe it could get to 27. Let's say in the last 6 games, last 4 games, as they start to find their mojo, hopefully over the course of the season.
Okay, so we'll talk about these predictions and stuff as time goes on because we're going to continue to do this. So we'll bring them up every show. I do want to ask you one quick question before we possibly take some questions in the live chat and then call it a show. And that is an article that I wrote. It's a simple article. It was called Pick Your Poison. And that's where I bring up two of anything. It could be obviously two of the worst quarterbacks, but in this case, it was who are the best bookend outside linebackers for the Steelers. And you had 2 choices. It was Kevin Green and Greg Lloyd. This is 3-4 outside linebackers. So I don't want to hear about Jack Ham. He was a 4-3 linebacker. Okay, so 3-4 linebackers, Green and Lloyd, or Woodley and Harrison in those 2000 teams. Who you got?
That's a tough one. So you said Green and Lloyd.
Kevin Green and Greg Lloyd, the Blitzburg defenses of the 90s, or Lamar Woodley.
I'm gonna go with that one. I think Debo. Now I'm gonna go with that one because I think Kevin Green is better than Debo. I think his statistically he's better. His track record's better. He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he has a gold jacket. That ranks. So when you have a gold jacket, you're the best of the 4. Period. And I think Avoid Lloyd was better than Lamar Woodley. I think Lamar Woodley was largely a product of Harrison's dominance. And so you got a lot of slide protection to Woodley, not to Woodley, excuse me, to Debo. Debo got a lot of the blocking priority which freed up Woodley. Not to take away from how productive Woodley was, but I think Avoid Lloyd was a better individual player than Woodley. So I'm gonna go with Green and Lloyd as the better of the two, largely because again, I think Lloyd was better than Woodley, but largely because that one of the pair has a gold jacket.
Yep. And it really is kind of personal preference. Some people, they talk about James Harrison. He won 2 Super Bowls, had a big play in the second one. Woodley won a Super Bowl and all that stuff, but at the same time, it's personal preference, you know. So I thought that was pretty interesting to you know, just talk about off-season talk, you know. So okay, so let's get to some questions. We have some people firing away already because I already asked them if they had any questions. Just so you know, if you're in the live chat right now, you see that Snowman has used the live or the super chat feature. That's why his question and comment is highlighted in green, and that means we will guarantee to answer that. You can use that by where it says chat publicly at BTSE Steelers Radio. You can see the little money symbol to the right. Hit that money symbol, donate any money, put it in the tip jar. We appreciate it. To $5 from Snowman. He says, "Hey, Jeff and Lance, will you be making an app for Behind the Steel Curtain?" Unfortunately, because Behind the Steel Curtain is a part of SB Nation, which is a part of Vox Media, that's above my head. I will say that if you want a very quick fix into finding everything behind the steel curtain and you don't want to go through like your a Google Chrome app or anything like that, if you're not an iPhone user, use your Apple News feed. Behind the Steel Curtain does have their own feed. Everything is right there for you. Very simple. Sometimes they do strip some content out of there, but for the most part, what you see is what you get. So if you're looking for an app, that's about as close as we get right now.
Hey, Snowman, man, that's a great point. I'm gonna make a pitch on this show right now. Powers that be, SB Nation, Vox Media. We need an app. We need an
Would be
app.
nice.
We need an app, and users need to be able to go on the app and pick the teams that they follow, and it pushes the content in the podcast, articles, content, podcasts, everything catered to the teams that you pick. Come on, Vox. We're a little bit slow on that.
Yeah, and then Snowman, you're not the first person that's asked me that. Trust me. I go to my superior, and he goes, "That's above my head," and he goes his, and it's just this long chain. So there you have it. All right, a few more questions. Will James Conner have more catches than Dante Moncrief in 2019?
Yes.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no to that. Let's see here. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to free up another $4 to $5 million in cap space. How did they do it?
Not looking at the cap allocation right now.
I'll give you a couple names.
Let's see.
Stephon Tuitt. He could
Yes.
be restructured. If you keep Chris Boswell, I believe he could be restructured. I have a feeling that there's some other. Who's another player that they could possibly restructure that just got a new deal? They haven't Villanueva.
I'm
could
pulling it up
possibly get a
right
new
now.
deal.
Yes. How many years left does David DeCastro have on his deal?
Well, he's already restructured once, so he can't do it again.
So he's restructured. Honestly, I mean, you could go to the Bank of Ben. I mean, you can always go to the Bank of Roethlisberger.
He's got him by the balls anyways.
You can always go to the Bank of Roethlisberger. Alejandro Villanueva is one you could do. I mean, the formula typically for guys you could restructure is, guys that you owe a big base salary that have multiple years left remaining on your contract. Those are guys that can do it. You take a portion of their base salary, you spread it out, and the proration lasts for a longer amount of time. Those would be the guys that you could do. Just looking at this, you said David DeCastro already did it.
I think so.
So yeah, like the dead money charge for cutting. Cam Hayward could be a guy that you could do.
Hayward, he's already restructured as well. I would say, what is the dead money if they cut someone like Anthony Chickillo, who just signed a new deal, or Eli Rogers?
Where's Chickillo? Chickillo's deal's not big enough. There's not enough money in it. On a dead money cap charge for his waiving would be $2.2 million. There's not enough money in it.
All I'm saying is, would there be cap savings there?
Yeah, but you won't get enough cap savings.
Gotcha.
You need a big deal like a Pouncey, where the dead money charge is like $13 million. You need a big deal like Pouncey, somebody that's getting a big a big amount of base salary. It's just not enough juice in Chicolo's salary.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go on to the next question. How many scrimmage yards will James Conner have this season?
Let's see, how many did he have last year?
He had 900 plus rushing.
He had like
I'm not.
953.
Yeah, I'm trying to think receiving. I can't. I want to say it might have been like 200. I was gonna say. If he stays healthy, I'll take between 12 and 1300 all-purpose yards.
Let me give you the numbers here. I love the internet because you can pull this stuff up really quickly. He had 973. That was pretty good, Lance. I was 20 yards off. He had 973. We'll round that up to 1,000. And he had 500 receiving
Oh,
yards.
500. Okay.
Yeah, 497. So
And that was
1,500
only
scrimmage yards.
that was only playing in 13 games. So in that case, I would say probably about the same. I think the numbers could be about the same. His rushing might go up or down. I say 1,600. What do you say?
I say that's about right. I was going to say about 1,650 to 1,700.
Okay.
Because he's definitely going to get more. If Mike Tomlin is true to his history, he's going to get more than 215 rushing attempts.
Yeah.
So,
which will be a theme for your upcoming show. So check that out when it publishes on Wednesday.
yeah. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this before you get to the next point. You talked about Dante Moncrief and receptions. James Conner has, now I'm looking at the stats, had 55 receptions last year. Do you think Conner will have more receptions than that? And do you think if he does, Moncrief will have even more receptions than that?
He had 55?
Yes, he had 55 receptions for 497 yards.
I would say if he stays healthy, yes, he would have more than that. Will Moncrief have more? That's tough. I would see Moncrief in the 60, or I'm hoping 70 range around there. So I just think about what Le'Veon Bell used to have, man. When he was the full-time back, he had a ton of receptions.
How about this with Moncrief? Let's say Conner has more receptions. He has like 65. He averages around 9 yards a reception. But Moncrief has, let's say, 50, but he averages 13 yards a catch, 14 yards a catch. Would that difference in receptions be okay if the yards per reception, let's say, differed by 5 to 6 yards? So if Conner averaged 9 last year, let's say Moncrief gives you 50 catches, averaging 14 yards a catch. Is that a good trade-off?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely, because they need someone that's going to stretch the field a little bit.
Yeah,
you can't dink and dunk. You can't dink and dunk all your way down the field. So there you go. This may be a good one to end on. Thomas White says, "Would you leave 2 unknown nude women alone in your hotel room with $1 million in cash and jewelry?"
Would you leave them alone?
Well, that's what he's referring to Le'Veon Bell's situation and how this girl stole the jewelry.
Well, hey man,
That's
don't be that guy if you're not that guy.
That's right. So, all right, man. But hey, this has been a good show. Very clean, very crisp. I thought it was good. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Remember, check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for all your Pittsburgh Steelers needs. 8 articles a day during the week, during the off season. There's nothing to talk about, so we're trying to find stuff for you. On top of that, make sure you're checking out Behind the Steel Curtains podcast platform, anywhere where you download your podcast. One thing I really want to emphasize in the month of July is to leave a comment, a review for our podcast. So like when you're on iTunes, you find our podcast, subscribe, give us a good rating, leave a comment. We really, really appreciate it. It helps boost us in the search engines and things of that nature. So anywhere you find a podcast, do that. Also, find us on YouTube, BTSC Steelers Radio. Subscribe, like, comment. A nice little community there. We appreciate it. Lance, anything you have to say before we call it a show?
Eucerin is good for dry skin.
That is true. That is true.
Always let me end the show by saying, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
Amen, brother. We'll see you next week for another episode of The Standard is the Standard.